we're going to take a look at the history of the revolver and see what the most important developments were. The revolver is interesting to look at because it didn't come out just completely perfect when it was made. There were lots of small developments made that got it up to what it is now. And once development of it got to a certain point, it just kind of stopped there, and what you have nowadays really looks the same as what you had then. So what were all of these important steps in the revolver? So to make this a nice list, I'm going to go over 5 important things with one honorable mention, which we will start with. And that honorable mention is the percussion cap. Now, the percussion cap is what made revolvers even remotely feasible at all. There were some flintlock-based revolvers. Most of them were clunky or had to have really bizarre ways to have it done. There's a few that they managed to make that didn't have to have multiple frizens and pans, but that was what the earliest concepts were, with just frizens sticking out everywhere at different angles. The percussion cap gave you a means to have ignition on all those, and being able to stick one on each chamber there in the cylinder made that feasible. So starting with all of these chronologically, our first development will be the rotating cylinder, or more specifically, the automatically rotating cylinder. That is a cylinder that rotates when you pull the hammer back to cock it. This was a development made by Samuel Colt, and this is what made Colt firearms. When you would cock back the hammer, the cylinder automatically rotates and indexes. Before, you had to do that by hand. So that's one step that you're taking out there, one important step in making that automated. So that now all you have to do between shots is just pull back the trigger and cock it. So this is really a big deal. And Colt's patents on that really held up developments on revolvers for other companies for quite a while. That's why you saw crazy things like pepper boxes and the revolvers that have the discs in them that would rotate, because they were trying to come up with anything that wouldn't infringe on Colt's patent. This next one was also a patent that was made that was really important, and that was the bore-through cylinder. This is something that Rollin White came up with, and the main point of the bore-through cylinder is that you drill all the way through it. Now, it sounds like a simple thing, but that bore-through cylinder was a key development and a key important step in being able to move from cap and ball revolvers to cartridge revolvers. And once again, whoever held that patent there for that bore-through cylinder was going to be able to make a whole lot more guns than everyone else, because they would have this latest and greatest development. And it was Smith & Wesson that ended up getting the rights to Rollin White's patent for that, and Smith & Wesson really took off, and this is kind of what made Smith & Wesson be able to be a thing. The next big development is going to be the double action trigger. So what is going on with a double action trigger? That is that as you pull the trigger, that trigger pull can automatically cock the hammer for you. So now you don't have that separate action that you have to take between shots. You don't have to cock the hammer, fire, cock the hammer, fire. You can just fire, fire, fire. It would be a heavy trigger pull, but it would be a single thing that you would have to do. You see this eventually become the double action, single action, which would allow you to either pull the trigger and fire it automatically that way, or pull back the hammer to get a lighter single action trigger pull. Our fourth big development is going to be the swing out cylinder. One big problem you had with revolvers was the time that it took to reload it. Want to eject, it's eject, rotate, then load, rotate, load, rotate. This was able to be fixed some by the top brake. That made things a lot quicker to reload. But top brakes are not a single solid frame, and you had structural problems and longevity issues, so that was always a downside to those. So the swing out cylinder put the cylinder on an arm called the crane that would swing out, that would be on, and that would allow a lot quicker reloading on it. Instead of having to work through the gate, you could eject them and load them all right there. Our fifth one is involved with the swing out cylinder, but it didn't come out at the same time as it came along a bit later, and that is the hand ejector. That is the ejector on the back of the Revolver that you can smack to kick all of the cartridges out. And this is what got us to the modern Revolver, was this last step here. Now you can quickly kick out all of the cartridges. You can load them up in there. They started coming out with speed loaders that would allow you to load really quickly in there, as well as moon clips and half moon clips that would allow you to load really quickly. The automatically indexing cylinder, the bore through cylinder, the double action trigger, the swing out cylinder, and the hand ejector, all of those together give you the modern Revolver. And once you hit that, design on Revolvers really just kind of plateaued. They would play around with different materials to make it out of, but there was nothing inherently different in the designs of all of them. But there is something that has been developed that may become a big thing going on down the line. Now, this is something that we have seen most prominently with the Chiappa Rhino, and that is going to be a really low bore axis achieved from firing from the bottom chamber in the cylinder instead of the top. Your traditional Revolver, they all fired out of that top chamber in it. What the Chiappa has done is move the barrel down to where it's not aligned with the top chamber, it's aligned with the bottom chamber. So what the idea behind this is that if all the recoil is coming up here at the top through that top chamber, that you have a lot of leverage that can push back there. If it's lower, it's a lot harder to have the leverage to push it all the way over there. I mean, it will still push some, but not as much as that up there. That's just basic leverage on it. So you get a lot less perceived recoil, or potentially a lot less perceived recoil, by having that barrel on the bottom chamber. And that's something that's going to be interesting going down the line to see how that works out as that firearm becomes more popular. Will other manufacturers start moving on to this? So if this were to take off, this would be the first big development in Revolver design in over 100 years. You would finally start to see something change to where Revolvers wouldn't look the same as they did 100 years ago. And that would be extremely, extremely significant. If you found this video useful, be sure to give it a thumbs up and a like. You can go down into the comment section and leave any thoughts you have down there. And if you're interested, you can also subscribe to my channel and click the little bell notification to make sure that you catch all the videos that I post so you don't miss anything. I'm Jeremy with Poindexter G, and we'll see you next time.